In a year full of rule changes, experimentation, and a resurgence of the running back position, it's about time that we look back at some of the most shocking moments from every week of the 2024-2025 NFL season. And in some weeks, I may have included more than just one because there were just some crazy things happening every single week in the NFL. Week 1. And now, what better way to kick the video off than, well, with talking about kickoffs and how they tried to change that rule because they were trying to just, as we all know, they were trying to reduce head injuries and everything like that. So let's start with that. Now, week 1 was the testing grounds for the new setup, and Arizona's DJ Dallas became the first player in NFL history to score on what was known as a dynamic kickoff first kick return touchdown, putting 6 on the board against Buffalo. The new rule change proved to be a success over the course of the season with a 57% increase in returns from 2023. One special teams unit that was not looked kindly upon, though, by their teammates was the Bengals, who lost to the Jacoby Brissett-led Patriots at home, fumbling a punt to give New England an easy 3 points. Since he did also fumble on offense, handing the ball over at the New England 1-yard line, and it just didn't look like a great game and was some signs of what we were to expect from the Bengals early in the season.
A new era in New England starts with an upset win. Gerard Mayo in his head coaching debut gets the victory in Cincinnati.
The actual first game of the season that did satisfy fans' appetite for drama with an AFC Championship game rematch was between the Chiefs and the Ravens. Lamar led Baltimore on a late drive with a chance to tie the game, and on the last snap of the drive, he fired a pass to Isaiah Likely in the back of the end zone.
5 seconds left to go in the game. Ravens trailing 27-20 to the Chiefs. Big rush by Kansas City, spinning around is Jackson. He will throw it late at the back of the end zone, and the pass is caught. It's a touchdown for the Ravens.
No, he's out.
Oh goodness, did his toe go out of bounds? It looks like his toe might be out of bounds. This is really close, right on the chalk line. This would end the game if they ruled this an incompletion.
Originally, it was ruled a catch, but upon further review, confirmed that his toe was on the line, and the Ravens had lost 27-20. And despite this result, likely won't be welcome back in Kansas City. Probably the most iconic thing from week 1, though, that we may have all forgot, though, were sloppy turnovers, as they were the name of the game for the meme machine and Will Levis, whose fourth quarter pick 6 sealed a 24 comeback point win for the Bears, despite a rough opening day for the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams.
3rd down and 6. Here they come. Gordon's coming. Levis gets wrapped up. Flings it ahead. It's picked off. Tyreek Stevenson will give the Bears the lead on another defensive play.
Week 2. Now, the NFC had most of the week 2 spotlight thanks to some incredible results. For starters, the Saints looked to be an emerging powerhouse, putting up 91 points in their first 2 games of the season, leaving the Cowboys and Panthers in their wake.
In the game at bat. Carr, pressure, lets it fly. Going deep, Shaheed. Oh! He's got it! Touchdown, New Orleans! A bomb to Shaheed!
And also, speaking of the Carolina Panthers, somehow Bryce Young managed to still look worse than he did in his rookie year. I do not know how that was possible. Bryce Young completed 18 passes for just 84 yards and an interception, visibly shaken in a shambolic week 2 showing against the Chargers, hanging on to his job by just a thread. San Francisco, as we all know, coming into the year was one of the league's best scoring offenses in 2023, but floundered in the face of Sam Darnold's Vikings with a 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson in the second quarter, kickstarting a fantastic run for Minnesota. Elsewhere in the conference, the Falcons won against a stacked Eagles team. Philly's big free agent signing Saquon Barkley dropped a potentially game-sealing screen pass, allowing Atlanta to claw ahead in the dying moments.
3rd down, almost 5. Here's Cousins. Waving London to the far side. Takes a snap. Kirk looks, sails it. Drake there. Caught! Touchdown Atlanta! Drake London. For the first time in 14 games, he stands in the end zone. And the Falcons have tied the game with 34 seconds.
At the start of the season, too, things weren't looking great for the Giants reject, but as we all know, he would have the last laugh, to say the least. Week 3. Now, to the surprise of many, Carolina admitted that they had seen enough of Bryce Young, opting to start a 36-year-old Andy Dalton instead, who led the team to victory against the Vegas Raiders in Week 3. And as crazy as it sounds too, Bryce Young, or I guess at least what they thought, Bryce Young was the problem. But I mean, as we've come to find out later in the season, it wasn't Bryce Young. And actually, the dude at the time seemed to be a generational bust. But by the end of the season, well, we'll get there. But yeah, I don't think he's a generational bust anymore. Bryce Young's fellow Bama alum Derrick Henry beat up on America's team, though, going for over 150 rushing yards and 2 scores in a tight win at Jerry's World, proving he was well worth the money Baltimore had paid him.
Got a hole, he crosses the 45, 50. Henry on a roll, 40, sheds a tackler, and he's all the way down to the 33-yard line.
One team that wasn't worried about their young quarterback, though, was, well, that was the Washington Commanders, who had Jaden Daniels. And I mean, we all knew what happened, or know what happens with Jaden Daniels this 2024 season. The rookie Jaden Daniels outdueled Joe Burrow and Cincy, completing a staggering 91% of his passes while being responsible for 3 touchdowns and nearly 300 yards of total offense on Monday Night Football.
3rd down and 7. This one is launched from McLaurin. He's got it. Touchdown.
Week 4. In Week 4, we saw an AFC heavyweight clash when the Bills made the trip down to Baltimore, only to be absolutely hammered by a high-flying Ravens offense. King Henry finished the night just shy of 200 rushing yards, marking the occasion with an 87-yard run to open the scoring.
There goes Henry up a big running game against Dallas. Derrick Henry on the run. Hamlin and Lewis chasing at the 40, at the 30. He will score.
It was a miraculous day, with Ravens fans hoping that this was a teaser of what was to come in the postseason. Week 5. Week 5, though, undoubtedly, we can chalk that up to the revenge week in the NFL. Sam Darnold didn't have his best game, but he did lead the Vikings to victory over the Jets for their 5th win in a row, heading into their bye week as an undefeated team sitting at 5-0.
Receivers right, one left. They blitz Rodgers, and they pay for it. Picked off by Van Ginkel, near side to the 50, on the sideline, 40, and is loose. Touchdown!
Over in Houston, we had Stephon Diggs put up 82 receiving yards in a 23-20 win over his former employers in Buffalo, topped off by this awkward post-game reunion with Josh Allen. And I mean, just 1 week after blowing out the Buffalo Bills, the Ravens then had to go face one of the greatest, if not the greatest, 1-3 team in the Cincinnati Bengals. The division rivals put together an epic back-and-forth game, with the Bengals extending their lead to 13 points in the 4th quarter, only for the Ravens to close the gap with just a minute and a half left, sending the game into overtime.
Justice Hill is the back. Likely in motion, he bobbles it, scoops it in, vacuums it home. Here comes Hubbard. Oh, he threw him away like a rag doll. And he throws in the end zone. Caught for a touchdown. Caught for a touchdown by Likely.
And I mean, feeling that pressure too, Lamar Jackson actually fumbled the snap, forfeiting possession to the Bengals, who then went on to miss a field goal, only for Derrick Henry to run the ball 51 yards down inside the 10, setting up a chip shot field goal for the Ravens to win the game. I mean, overall, this game was just a roller coaster of emotions, but a celebration of the 2 of America's finest talents under center, and yet another heartbreaker for Bengals fans. Week 6. Now, as we were 1/3 of the way through his first full season as a Jet, Aaron Rodgers had his team sitting at 2-4, suffering a 23-20 home defeat to the division rival Bills less than a week after firing head coach Robert Saleh.
Last play before the 2-minute warning. Rodgers buys time, airs it out. Mike Williams fell down, and it is picked by Tyron Johnson.
And to add to more pain too, his 61% completion rate and 9-5 touchdown interception ratio up to that point was just extremely subpar and not what we were used to seeing out of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, truthfully, it was a bit of a tough pill to swallow if you were a Jets fan, knowing that, well, Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to be your savior. And I mean, even after they did trade for Devontae Adams a couple weeks later, it didn't really matter. I mean, remember this moment from when they went on the Pat McAfee show?
What's that?
Well.
Here he is. Hey, good to see you, Tay. Good to see you, man. Congrats. What's up, fellas? Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Back in the NFC, though, where Rodgers enjoyed his best years, his fellow Cal alum Jared Goff was leading a dominant Detroit team, and Week 6 saw the Lions take a huge hit, losing Aiden Hutchinson for the season to a gruesome leg injury. But this only seemed to spur them on, annihilating the Cowboys 47-9, making their case for being the NFC's best team. Week 7. Now, 1 week later, the Lions snapped the Vikings' 5-game win streak with a last-second field goal to decide a 31-29 shootout in Minneapolis. That made the Chiefs the only remaining undefeated team following a 28-18 win of their Super Bowl rematch against the Niners, despite Mahomes registering the worst passer rating of his career. KC wasn't the only team in the AFC West, though, to get huge results in Week 7, where Sean Payton got the better of his former employer with a 33-10 win over the Saints to bring back Denver above 500. Week 8. Now, as we went on to about the halfway point in Week 8 of the season is where we got some pretty decisive results that would end up playing a pretty big factor into the remainder of the season and kind of what happened throughout the rest of this season. This began with the 3-3 Rams hosting the Vikings, who up to that point only had one clink in their armor. With Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back in the lineup for their first time since weeks 1 and 2 respectively, LA put on an absolute show in SoFi to win 30-20. I mean, just as one wide receiver room was getting back to full strength in the LA Rams, well, another one had just lost their centerpiece in the Houston Texans. Sadly, Stephon Diggs did go down with a torn ACL in a win over the Colts, unfortunately cutting his first season as a Texan short. Philly did manage to get their swagger back, though, after 2 straight wins coming out of their bye, pummeling the inconsistent Bengals team in Cincy 37-13, but it was their division rivals who stole the show in Week 8. In one of the most dramatic games of the year, the 2024 draft's first 2 selections faced off as the Chicago Bears visited the nation's capital and had their entire season undone by an epic 52-yard Hail Mary from Jaden Daniels to Noah Brown.
Comes down to one last play, and it's going to be getting longer by the second. You're all the way back at the 30-yard line. Now you can step into it. Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line, and the ball is caught! Caught! It's a miracle! It's Noah Brown! Oh my goodness!
Are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest and easiest payouts in the industry, along with 24/7 personalized service 365 days a year. Not only that, but they have live wagering on all major games, so if you see something mid-game and want to make a wager on it, you can. And the best part is you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And now look, you guys knew I had to come through with you guys for a promo code, so make sure that you guys are using code YouTube150 for a nice 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. That's right, we were doing 125%, but we said screw that, we're giving you guys 150% instead. Again, that is promo code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. Again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, but for now, let's hop back into it. Week 9. The marquee matchup in Week 9 was the 6-1 Lions heading to Lambeau to face the 6-2 Packers for a hugely consequential game in the NFL's most competitive division. Detroit put on an absolute clinic, fighting their way through a wet night in Wisconsin as Amon-Ra St. Brown recreated a viral celebration after scoring the opener touchdown. On the other side of things, Jordan Love tossing a pick 6 and no scores wasn't a great look after he had signed a mega contract in the offseason. The 24-14 final score was a testament to the Lions' mental toughness and a statement to the rest of the NFC that they were a serious problem on both sides of the ball. Saquon Barkley was also making headlines, not least for his 199 total yards of offense and 2 touchdowns and a win over the Jags, but because of the backwards hurdle over a Jacksonville defender.
Has time. Now locates Barkley out of the backfield. Barkley slips 2 tackles and picks up.
The move was easily the best of the season, sending shockwaves across the league, a clear reminder that Saquon was back and better than ever. Week 10. When the Bengals and Ravens met in Week 10, it had been just as hotly contested as it was in Week 5 when these two teams did match up against each other. The Bengals managed to snag a dramatic late score with Burrow threading the needle to Chase in the back of the end zone, needing just an extra point to send the game to overtime. And perhaps scared from their first encounter, Cincinnati actually decided to go for 2, but the pass intended for Tanner Hudson is uncatchable, adding another painful loss to the Bengals' books. despite there might have been a pass interference call that was missed on that play. Meanwhile, the other AFC North contender in Pittsburgh was quietly having a fantastic season, moving up to 7-2 with a narrow win over the Commanders, keeping Rookie of the Year favorite Jaden Daniels relatively quiet. Bo Nix, a rookie who blossomed later than Daniels, was the subject to even more heartbreak in Week 10 though, as he led the Broncos through a fantastic battle with the Chiefs, set to hand them their first loss of the season at Arrowhead no less. But as we all know in the dying seconds, this happened to keep Kansas City undefeated for one more week.
Boney the snap, Riley the hold, lets the kick to win it. Blocked! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won!
Week 11. Now, when Buffalo hosted the Chiefs in Week 11, Allen called game on a 4th and 2, a season-defining play for the Bills, breaking 3 tackles on his way into the end zone.
Fakes left, now taken off, gonna run for it, he got it! And there he goes! Inside the 10, the 5! Oh, the play of the year in the NFL! Unbelievable!
The Steelers continued their charge for one of the top seeds in the AFC, downing the Ravens in a defensive slugfest where Chris Boswell's right foot was responsible for each of their 18 points. And to round out this week's action, a vintage Taysom Hill performance was what was on the cards, and nobody saw this coming. The guy was throwing, catching, running, even returning kicks at one point in this game. He was a true Swiss Army knife whose 3 total touchdowns and over 200 yards of offense greatly contributed to the 35 points New Orleans put up on the Browns. Week 12. Cleveland would get their moment to shine back at their home stadium the following Thursday night in the first snow game of the year. And truthfully, Jameis Winston's pregame interview is the stuff of a legend. His clutch performance, including a crucial 4th down conversion for a score, was one of the biggest feel-good moments of this season. Now, there was another first overall pick that was enjoying a career renaissance inside of the NFC South, with that being Bryce Young, who in Week 8, or after Week 8, I should say, was actually looking like a pretty damn good quarterback in the NFL. Week 12 brought a battle with Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, which Young had the Panthers in pole position to win if it weren't for a last-second field goal to put the Kansas City Chiefs up 30-27. Regardless though, the biggest takeaway from this game was that maybe Bryce Young had been written off a little bit too soon. Week 13. KC would get lucky the following week in the exact same situation with a 4th quarter field goal enough to help them scrape past an abysmal Raiders team following a fumble that I just don't know how this happened. At least the Bills were putting on a show in yet another snow game, destroying the visiting 49ers as Josh Allen improvised a hook and ladder with Amari Cooper, diving for the pylon to make him the first player in NFL history to pass, run, and catch a touchdown in the same game. A 35-10 win over the previous year's NFC champs certainly gave Bills Mafia a vote of confidence in the team's postseason odds. Week 14. Now, just 1 week later, another California team would give the Bills a run for their money, largely down to some heroics from Puka Nacua, whose 162 yards through the air and 2 total touchdowns led the way for LA. Josh Allen's insane 6-touchdown, 400-plus yard game wasn't enough to keep the Bills afloat in the City of Angels, where a resurgent 7-6 Rams team could finally catch a whiff of January football in a weak NFC West. And now stop me if you've heard this one, but in Week 13, the Kansas City Chiefs won another close game, and this time it came against the LA Chargers of all teams, and we remember what happened here, right? Just doing enough to get by became this team's calling card this year for the Chiefs, and it was working to great effect, earning them a 12-1 record up to this point. Week 15. Now, Week 15 brought a sneak peek into a potential Super Bowl matchup when the 12-1 Lions hosted the 10-3 Bills. It was a game that was earmarked on most people's calendars for a while, but it was inexplicably played at the 4:25 p.m. slot, and regardless though, it still lived up to the billing. Allen and Goff combined for over 900 yards without a single interception in a tight game where the Lions struggled to keep pace with an unstoppable Bills offense. Josh Allen himself strengthened his case for MVP with 4 total touchdowns and 430 yards, which alongside a pair of rushing touchdowns from James Cook helped Buffalo put up 48 points to best the Lions 42. And there was no denying the potency of Detroit's offense. However, with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs as the standout performers on the day, they just couldn't do enough to help them get over the hump and beat the Bills. Week 16. It had been 5 weeks since their first meeting, and Baltimore had labored over avoiding the same mistakes they had made when they came up against Pittsburgh again. This time, the Ravens' offense was unplayable as they posted 34 points to the Steelers in a game that had the potential to turn the tide of the AFC North title race. Just the one turnover this time around for Lamar and company made things much easier, finally finding the rhythm after their bye week. Similarly in the NFC, the Eagles were on an impressive 10-game win streak since their week 4 bye and headed down to DC with the hopes of wrapping up the division early. A Jalen Hurts concussion did complicate this effort, but heading into the fourth quarter with a 13-point lead should have probably been enough, right? Wrong. Instead, Jaden Daniels orchestrated 2 scoring drives to give Washington their first lead of the game, only for the Eagles to score back-to-back field goals, leaving Washington just 2 minutes to change the result. The rookie completed the game-winning pass into a crowded end zone with just 6 seconds on the clock, while converting a 2-point conversion to win the game 36-33, generating momentum that would carry them into the postseason. In less positive news though, after catching just his 3rd touchdown of the year, Tank Dell suffered a gruesome season-ending injury for the 2nd year in a row, further depleting an already weakened Texans receiving core, and was an emotionally devastating moment for one of the league's brightest young talents. I mean, by the time Christmas did roll around, it was about the second to last week before the season, and there were many teams that were just trying to, figure out how they were going to get into the playoffs, or at least keep their playoff hopes alive if they did have any of them left. To the surprise of everybody too, the Steelers put up a disappointing fight against the Chiefs, which wasn't helped out by the Ravens just absolutely hammering the Texans 31-2, giving them the edge in the AFC North. In that game, Houston's offense did not have a single scoring drive, while Lamar Jackson continued to make his case for a 3rd MVP, contributing 3 total touchdowns and 255 yards of offense, while he also went on to break Michael Vick's career record for rushing yards at the quarterback position, clocking the fastest run of his career in the process. On the NFC side, they saw a duel of 2 rookie quarterbacks, with the recently christened starter Michael Penix looking to help the Falcons make a case for the South, while Jaden Daniels could secure the Commanders a wildcard spot with a win. Washington did capitalize on Penix's interception on the opening drive with a touchdown before conceding 17 unanswered points. They would finally regain the lead to open the fourth quarter, but a clutch drive from the 8th overall pick brought Atlanta level with just 1 minute left to play. This was just enough time for Washington to go 3-and-out, giving the Falcons one last chance, as Penix was helped out by a pass interference call to get into field goal range, and the decisive kick was perfectly aimed but came up just short. The Cardiac Commanders proved their nickname as Daniels led a game-winning drive in overtime, providing a glimpse into one of the most exciting quarterback rivalries of the future. And as crazy as this sounds too, in the NFC East, Giants fans were pissed this week because some fans weren't exactly thrilled about what they did. The Giants' first victory since week 5 was utterly meaningless and ruined their shot at the number 1 overall pick just 7 weeks after giving up their franchise quarterback, a move that divided a long-suffering fan base. Week 18. And alas, we made it to week 18 where, yes, there was some tidying up they did have to do with the playoffs, seeding and things like that. But for the most part, the playoff picture was pretty much set by the time week 18 had rolled around. Obviously, we did have a couple things that we're going to go over right now. The Chiefs kept Cincinnati out of the playoffs by fielding a heavily rotated squad, which saw them get whooped 38-0 by the Broncos, who clinched their first playoff spot in nearly a decade. I don't know who really said this, but allegedly Kansas City did this to avoid Joe Burrow in the postseason, but they had absolutely no reason to put up a fight here with the number 1 seed already in wraps. More importantly though, Bryce Young completed his comeback arc, putting the final nail in Atlanta's coffin in week 18. Young was responsible for 5 touchdowns on the day, but it was a clutch overtime drive from the signal caller that ultimately showed his growth. Cool under pressure, Young was able to deliver dart after dart, eventually finding Jalen Coker at the 1-yard line for Miles Sanders to punch in the game-winning score. 5-12 is much better than the Panthers looked to start the season, and Bryce Young was proving his doubters wrong thanks to some heroic performances down the stretch. Truthfully, if he carries this momentum into next season, who knows what the NFC South will look like in 2025. The final game of the 2024 regular season, though, came as Detroit faced Minnesota, with the winner clinching the division in the NFC 1 seed. A huge deal was made about the 1,900 tickets the Vikings organization had bought up behind the visitors' sideline at Ford Field, but that did little to help this team win or even have a chance in this game. I mean, the offense just absolutely flopped, putting up just 9 points in their most important game of the season while conceding 31 to their biggest rival. I mean, despite the choke artistry on display, Lions head coach Dan Campbell was confident that this wouldn't be the end of the line for these two teams. And as we all know, that clip has aged fantastically, if you want to call it that.